You walk into a room and something shifts. Not in the room, in you. Your shoulders drop or they tighten. Your breathing slows or it shallows. Your eyes move differently. Your pace changes. And something that lives below language makes a decision about this place before your conscious mind has finished reading the ceiling. You call it atmosphere. You call it vibe. You say the room has good energy or bad energy, and you believe you are describing something about the room. You are not. You are describing something about your brain. Architecture is not passive. Every building you have ever entered has been doing something to your nervous system, and the architects who designed them, the great ones at least, knew exactly what they were doing. The question is why? Why does a room have the power to change the state of your body? Why does a cathedral make you feel small in a way that is somehow also comforting? Why does a narrow corridor make your heart rate climb? Why does a space with high ceilings make you think more abstractly, and a space with low ceilings make you focus on detail? The answer is not in architecture, it is in what your brain is and what it was built for. Your brain is not a passive observer of the world, it is a prediction machine. Every second of your waking life, your brain is running forward simulations, anticipating what will happen next, what a space will demand of you, what threats or opportunities it contains. This is not a metaphor. Neuroscientist Carl Friston at University College London has spent decades developing what he calls the predictive processing framework, the idea that perception itself is a form of controlled hallucination. A best guess your brain is constantly making about reality based on everything it has ever learned. When you enter a new space, your brain does not experience it neutrally. It immediately begins scanning for signals that match or violate its predictions. High ceilings, safe, open, expansive. Low ceilings, confined, narrow, potentially dangerous. Curves, natural, organic, non-threatening. Sharp angles, edges, potential hazards, alert. Dark corners, unknown, possible concealment of threat. Flooded light, open, visible, safe. These are not aesthetic preferences, these are survival responses running on hardware that was built hundreds of thousands of years before the first building was ever constructed. Your brain is evaluating architecture with the sensory grammar of the savanna. Researcher Colin Ellard at the University of Waterloo conducted a series of experiments where participants were taken to different urban environments and their physiological stress responses were measured in real time. A blank, featureless wall produced measurable increases in anxiety and a sense of social disconnection. A richly detailed, varied facade, windows, texture, variation, produced calm, curiosity, engagement. The participants did not know what was being measured. Their bodies were reacting to architectural complexity in the same way their ancestors would have reacted to the difference between a barren, exposed plain and a varied, resource-rich landscape. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a blank concrete wall and a threat. Both register as the same thing, an environment with nothing to read, nothing to hide behind, no information. And for a brain built to survive, no information is the most dangerous state of all. But here is where it gets interesting. The architects who shaped the most powerful spaces in human history understood this intuitively, without neuroscience, without brain imaging, without any of the language we now use to describe what they were doing. They discovered through centuries of trial and error that you could use the physics of space to reach directly into a visitor's nervous system and pull specific levers. The Gothic cathedral is the most precise example. When you enter a Gothic cathedral, a sequence of things happens to your body that you did not consent to and cannot prevent. The nave is long, much longer than necessary. This forces your gaze forward and upward along converging lines that draw you toward the altar in a way that is neurologically identical to the experience of walking toward a light source in darkness. Your brain registers this as approach toward safety or significance. The ceiling is impossibly high. Your brain, running its savanna software, registers open sky. The autonomic nervous system responds with a shift toward calm. Your breathing deepens. Your heart rate drops slightly. A sense of awe begins to form, and awe, as psychologist Dasha Keltner at the University of California, Berkeley has shown, is not merely an emotion, It is a specific physiological state in which the perceived self becomes smaller relative to something vast, and in which the boundaries of the individual begin to dissolve. The Gothic architects did not know the word autonomic. They did not know what the limbic system was. But they knew that if you made the ceiling high enough, something happened to a person, something that made them feel the presence of the divine. They were not wrong. They were just describing neuroscience in the only language available to them. Now consider what happens when architecture goes the other way. Soviet-era housing blocks, American suburban office parks, the waiting rooms of institutions. These spaces share a common grammar: low variation, repetitive geometry, minimal natural light, no organic curves, no complexity for the eye to navigate. Researchers have found that prolonged exposure to these environments is associated with elevated cortisol, reduced creativity, increased rates of depression, and a measurable decline in cognitive flexibility. The space is not just unpleasant, it is doing something to your brain. It is running your stress response at a low, sustained hum because your nervous system is in an environment it cannot read, cannot predict, and cannot feel safe inside. You are not imagining it when an office makes you feel less alive. The office is, at a neurological level, slightly hostile, not to your body, to your ancient brain's need to feel oriented in a world it can understand. Architect Juhani Palasma, in his essential work on the phenomenology of architecture, argues that buildings are experienced not just visually but through the entire body, through the acoustics of a space, the temperature of surfaces, the resistance of a floor underfoot, the smell of materials. Your brain is not looking at a building, it is inhabiting it, reading it through every sensory channel simultaneously, and assembling an emotional and physiological verdict that arrives before your conscious mind has formed a single opinion. This is why photographs of great architecture so rarely capture what it feels like to be inside. The image shows you what the eyes see. It cannot show you what the nervous system feels. The Pantheon in Rome looks striking in photographs, but no photograph prepares you for what your body does when you stand beneath its oculus and look up at a perfect circle of sky 43 meters above your head. No image conveys the slight drop in heart rate, the deepening of breath, the peculiar sensation that the building knows something about you that you do not yet know about yourself. The architects who built these spaces were not just designing shelter, they were designing states of mind. And so were the ones who built the spaces that diminish you. Every room you have ever walked into has had an opinion about who you are and what you should feel. The great ones have made you larger, the bad ones have made you smaller, and you have felt both of those things without ever knowing why. Now you know. The next time you walk into a space and something shifts, something below language, below thought, below the level where you can name it, that is your brain doing what it has always done. Reading the world it was built for, in the language it was built to speak, even when the world is a building.